Hey, welcome back to my channel. Sticking with the 80s Halloween ripoff slasher movies, I figured I would go back and recheck out Terror Train. Now, I've seen this movie several times over the years. I own a Blu-ray from Shout Factory. I haven't watched it since I think I watched it when I first got the Blu-ray. I haven't watched it since then. It's not one of my favorite slasher movies. It is basically Halloween on a train, and even the producer is quoted as saying that was his idea, is putting Halloween on a train. This movie was made for $3.5 million. It stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Hart Bochner, who everybody remembers from Ellis from Die Hard. And funny enough, that actor, he was in Urban Legends too. He played the killer in that. Spoiler alert. And then he actually directed a movie called PCU, which is a pretty funny movie with David Spade, Jon Favreau's in it. And he directed some other things, and he acted a bunch of TV shows. Ben Johnson's also in this movie, which was a huge get for this movie, considering, I mean, Ben Johnson was in a bunch of Peckinpah films, John Ford movies, and the only reason Ben Johnson did this film was because the director of this movie, which was his first job, his name's Roger Spotswood, and he did the editing on Straw Dogs and two other Peckinpah films. That's where he met Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson told him that if you ever direct a movie, I'll be in it. And Ben Johnson's even quoted as saying, I found a quote from him saying, I didn't even read the script. As soon as Roger called me, I said I'd do it. And he plays one of the train conductors on this train. And pretty much the gist of this movie is, in the beginning of the movie, I'm going to spoil this, it's been out for a long time. These college kids play this prank on this kid. Now, they don't really set up this kid too much. It happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie. They're playing a prank on this kid. But just looking at the kid, he looks like a loner, dorky kind of kid. But they're treating the kid really nice, and they're trying to get him laid, pretty much is the thing. And they say there's this girl upstairs, and Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't want to do this prank, but she goes along with it reluctantly. And they're medical students, so they put a cadaver in the bed, and Jamie Lee Curtis hid behind the bed talking to this kid because they have it dark, so the kid can't really see what's going on. He thinks it's her in the bed, and he gets into bed, and she's telling him to kiss her, and when he goes to kiss her, he realizes it's a corpse, and the kid flips out. And basically, it cuts to 3 years later. And it's New Year's Eve, and their plan is they've rented this train out for the night for New Year's Eve, and they're going to party on this train, and that's their plan for New Year's Eve. It's their senior year in college, and this is their way to celebrate. And everybody's dressed in a costume of some kind. And David Copperfield's also in this movie as a magician. His name's not David Copperfield in the movie, but David Copperfield's in the movie. Matter of fact, this is the only movie he's ever done. Matter of fact, he's quoted as saying, it was so painful trying to remember the dialogue, he swore he'd never do another movie again. And as far as I know, he hasn't. From all the research I checked, he has never done another movie again. So it's funny, Terror Train's the only movie David Copperfield has ever been in. Now this movie, when they're getting on the train, they try to set up some red herrings. And it doesn't work because you know who the killer is. There's a couple cool things they do with it. When the guy shows up, right when they're boarding the train, he kills one of their classmates. And he takes their costume, the guy's costume that he kills, and puts it on. And for the first bunch of kills, that's what he does. He'll kill somebody and take their costume and put it on. And that's kind of neat little thing. And in the movie, there's some cool shots of the train. As a matter of fact, which obviously they didn't shoot this on a moving train. They shot it in a big warehouse in Montreal, Canada. And when the train looked like it was moving, all it was people outside moving the train cars, bouncing up and down. That's how they made it look. It's magic of movies. There is some cool shots of the train moving and all that, but obviously they didn't film on a moving train. They shot in a big warehouse in Montreal in the wintertime, and they said it was so cold one night the camera froze, and they had to stop shooting because they couldn't shoot it anymore. And as the movie goes along, he kills a lot of the people that were involved with this practical joke on him. And Ben Johnson, the one conductor, finds a body, and then he finds another body, and that's when they start panicking because we're out in the middle of nowhere. The train doesn't have a radio on it. And they explain why. They kind of set up a scene where they explain why there's no radio on the train. And then as the movie goes forward, he just keeps killing in different ways. Nothing spectacular. There's a few good kills in there. It's not overly gory. There's some blood. There's a severed head in there, but it's not overly gory. It's definitely not one of the gorier slasher films. And funny enough, for Jamie Lee Curtis, this is where she got the Scream Queen title. I mean, obviously she was in Halloween, and then she reteamed with John Carpenter in '80 to do The Fog. And then in '82, she had Prom Night and Terror Train all in the same year. And then she did one more thriller called Road Games with Stacey Keek down in Australia. And then she went to Trading Places, and then she didn't do horror for a long time until Virus was probably her next horror movie. Did that come out before H2O, before she came back to the Halloween franchise? One or the other. But she's good in the movie. Ben Johnson's Ben Johnson. He's always been in any movie. God rest his soul. He's been dead for a while now, but he was always good in any movie he was in. The movie's shot fine. It's not nothing special. There's some nice shots, but it's not like Halloween. It didn't have the artistry of a John Carpenter movie, but it's fine. It's serviceable for what it's there for. The kids, the actors are okay. Some of the acting's not the greatest, and there's some script choices that are. Some people do a lot of stupid shit to move the plot forward or to get a kill, which happens in a lot of these films. So it's hard to bitch about that. It's kind of been the standard. Now, what I consider this a classic, a minor one. It's one of the Halloween ripoffs it's okay. It's not bad. It's not great. It's not Halloween, even though it's trying to be. I just don't think the characters are interesting enough. I mean, Ben Johnson's character and Jamie Lee Curtis's character are probably the most interesting ones. And even the killer could have been more interesting. There's one scene where he dresses up, David Copperfield as an assistant on the train. And there's one scene where the guy dresses up as the assistant. And at first, you're like, is that her or is that the guy? Because they don't show his face. You only see him in the beginning, and they don't show it until towards the end of the movie. But it almost looks like a dude dressed as a woman, and then it ends up being him, and he kills David Copperfield, and he kind of fools other people by dressing as the woman and walking around. And that's the first time I saw that in a movie, honestly, when I was a kid. I mean, obviously, Sleepaway Camp did it later, and probably more shockingly, obviously, because of the ending of that movie. But, yeah, so there's a little transvestite action in there. He does dress up like a woman and fools some people. And at the end, his death it's fine. It's okay. It's nothing great. But, yeah, I would give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. There's nothing special about it. It's okay. There's some nice shots. The director did okay. I mean, Roger Spotswood went on to do Turner and Hooch, Air America, Best of Times, which I reviewed about a month ago. And then he went on to do a Bond film, actually. Tomorrow Is Not Enough. Or Tomorrow Never Dies. Tomorrow Never Dies. He did that one. The second Pierce Brosnan Bond he directed. And then he did an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Sixth Day, which is okay. And then he did a bunch of TV. Like I said, the directing's okay. It's nothing special. With a lot of these films, it usually comes off as serviceable. A lot of the Halloween ripoffs, and there was a ton of them in the early '80s. I mean, Prom Night was a Halloween ripoff, for Christ's sake, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in that. That was the thing. Everybody thought, well, we're gonna rip off Halloween. We'll put Jamie Lee Curtis in there. Just come up with a different storyline, and we'll make some money. We'll make it real cheap. Because, like I said, Terror Train was made for $3.5 million. I don't know what it made, honestly. I think it was a minor hit. It was nothing special. But yeah, I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. If you've never seen it, it's worth checking out as a curiosity. There's some fun to be had with it. The setting's cool on the train. And they did shoot in real train cars, which must have been a pain in the ass to move the camera around and try to get your shots. It definitely limited the angles, because you could tell, I mean, where they put the camera, there's really nowhere to go with it. It's not like today where the cameras are smaller. But no, it's service. If you never see, you can have some fun with it. I just watched it again for the first time in a few years. It's fine. It's definitely not one of the better slasher films, or even one of the better Halloween ripoffs, but it's okay. It's not one of the worst either. So if you've never seen it, definitely check it out as a curiosity. It's definitely worth at least seeing once. I don't think the rewatchability is there with this one. I think some movies that came a little later, like April Fool's Day, and some of the Friday the 13th, which I've been plowing through, and I'm going to get back to soon, have some more rewatchability than this movie. But it's a perfectly fine movie to check out. I thought since it's close to New Year's, I'm a little late with it, but I figured I'd check it out. But that's it for me. Have a good one, and I will be back soon. Thanks. Bye.